I have this notepad file on my desktop. It's titled, I Just Can't Believe It. I have another one titled, How Did This Happen? They're both scripts I started in very down moments in the spring of 2023, both pretty much about the same thing. The work it's taken to rebuild my life, getting sober, the mental health challenges with getting sober, accepting how you think and deal with things differently. And I think most of us have, not everyone, but most of us have a longing for a true partner. But I blew up my life, and something interesting happens when you blow up your life. You're ultimately free. And that makes it sound like you can just do anything you want, right? But that's not true. It makes all the subsequent choices that much more important. It does that because the struggle to get there gives you great clarity on what's okay and what's not okay in your life, including your relationships, your friends, your job, how you spend your free time, how you spend your time in general, if you volunteer, everything. Because you truly have an opportunity to define everything in your life over, including your podcast. Welcome back to the nobadkarma podcast, launched April 29th, 2021. This is season 2023, episode 8. And this podcast has always been about one thing: being more intentional about your choices. Hence the tagline, giving your choices a purpose bigger than yourself. Why? Because the choices you make each day just don't affect you. They ripple out to all kinds of people in your life, those you know and those you don't know. Think of even your choices at work. They're rippling out to customers. So in my world, all those choices, that energy that you're putting out with those choices, that comes back to you. Or may come back to you. And that's karma. So if nearly everything you do affects someone else, why on earth would anyone want to put bad energy out there to begin with? And if you are putting bad energy out there, why is it you think you're going to receive good energy back? We forget how the simplest of actions can cause a ripple effect and have such tremendous long-term damage, or even destroy relationships, destroy families. And why do I talk about that? Because that's what I did. And then I had it done to me. Or I got my karma and then some. But we also forget those same simple actions that cause such a ripple effect in a negative way can also build people up and build things up, build relationships up, build jobs up, build strangers up. So I started recording in April 2021 with the intention of telling key moments in my story in the hopes of making someone think twice before making the bad decisions I did, sharing what I learned the hard way and truly trying to practice what I preach. And as I've said, there's some trauma in life that you never get over. You just need to get beyond. You can look at life and trauma in real time or growth in real time. And that's something I've learned along the journey and I've tried to focus on more intentionally in 2023. So because the tone and manner in which I attempted to deliver the messages has changed, I thought we should speak about that, because that's what we sometimes need to do in life, rebrand ourselves. And really, it's more about refining your brand, who you are every day. And one way to do it is to stop looking at life as trauma in real time and move to growth in real time, because growth gives you the opportunity to be who you are. So I've called today's episode Rebranding and Moving from Trauma in Real Time to Growth in Real Time, because that's what I've tried to do with this podcast, but that's really what we need to do in life. And I've mentioned that phrase in several episodes in the past about how I'm sharing my trauma in real time, but I've done that in the hopes that someone else could learn from it and grow. In fact, when I launched this podcast, I called it Nobadkarma, how being a sugar daddy changed my life. And as I said, that was over 2 years after the 3-year affair that destroyed my life ended. It was another year after the relationship after that ended. And I was at the bottom. I had nothing to live for. And that's when I decided I didn't want to live on a wheel anymore. But going back to that original title, how it changed my life, I always said changed my life, not destroyed my life. I did that. I didn't say it made it better. I am a better person now. And I would never, ever, ever, on any level, for any reason, intentionally make the same mistakes I made in the past in any area of my personal relationships or anywhere else in life. So when I was at the bottom and started this podcast back then, I wanted to share highlights of that story to get that point across and share what I learned from it in hopes of preventing someone else out there from making the mistakes I did. So I did that through the end of 2022, and then I took 6 months off. And you know why that was? Because of everything I just said. Trauma, the ongoing challenges of my struggle, the ridiculous amount of work I've done to rebuild my life, my business, the mental health struggles that result from all that in my sobriety, not being able to drink frustrations away, and longing for a partner, a true partner, someone who wanted to accept me, understand my past, understand that I'm not the piece of shit guy that I used to be. And it's hard to be encouraging to others when you're feeling at your worst. But that's also when I did what everybody else does. We have to pick ourselves up and move on, move forward. And that was really when I pulled out the list of things I had learned and started to update it and focus more on that just from a day-to-day standpoint, because I always wanted to give my choices a purpose bigger than themselves, and there's always ways to do that better. But the truth is, I have been living and loving intentionally since April 2021, even though I didn't call it that. From that moment I felt I had no reason, I picked my reasons, and that's when intentionality started, because in all that trauma, all your opportunities for are in all that trauma are your opportunities for growth and to be who you want to be. Really is to be who you are. I want to say to be who you want to be, but if it's in you, you are it already. You're just not being it. So who are you and who is your brand? And I did speak about that in a previous episode about living your brand. So if you want my thoughts on that, go back to that one, because we want to move forward now and talk about refining your brand. And yes, maybe your brand does need an overhaul, an update on the image, fix the dents in the car, the hole in your kitchen ceiling. That's an inside joke. Get a new haircut, get a new wardrobe. But hopefully all that's going on something solid, and you're maybe reimaging your brand, resurfacing. you ever go to the store and notice how package sizes have changed since COVID in particular? And maybe a label has changed also at that time. And you may or may not notice it. Like I said, you may or may not think about it. But if they come out with a whole new color scheme, if your favorite restaurant closes for a week, let's say, they change the menu, they completely update the inside, and you and your dinner companion walk in and you say, oh, wow, they've rebranded. So I thought long and hard about whether I wanted to use the word rebranding with today's title, but it is appropriate because after podcasting from April 2021 to December 22, like 1 3/4 years, I just stopped. I stopped. I paused for 6 months because of what I've already said a couple times. I was tired. I've had enough. When's it going to end? I remember at my old office, a place I was in and out of a lot over the last 30 years, there was this poster hanging over what was originally my workspace, actually. We bought some motivational posters when we first moved in, some cool things for the wall, and this poster was right above my desk. And it had a list of 100 things in life that would contribute to your happiness. And the very first thing on that list was who you marry. So unfortunately, I came to this place because I didn't follow the advice I now give. I wasn't intentional about my relationship or with my relationship with my ex-wife. I'm not saying I shouldn't have married her. It wasn't about that. I absolutely do think that was the right choice at that time. But I became less intentional about it later. I became less intentional about other things in my life in the process. Then I became intentional about making what I would now refer to as bad choices. But the truth is, if you're not going to be intentional in a way that you're living and loving intentionally and positively and moving your life forward, then really what's the point? So that's why since July 2nd, 2023, I've been speaking about being intentional with your relationship and life choices. Let me say this another way, and then I'll give you something to think about. People talk about how we are this amalgamation of our experiences, right? Agreed. Those experiences define you. But that's when you can let them define you. And by that, I mean define you. Period. Now think about that for a minute. That would be a bad thing. Would you want to be defined by your last impression that you left? Well, also a previous episode. Do you, if you left a bad impression somewhere, is that how you want someone to define you? So if somebody puts a bad impression on you, why do you want that to define you? Or you can let them define you by moving beyond it and learning from it and building on it, building on those traumas, building on those experiences, making your life better. So you can let every experience be a trauma that forever damages you, or a trauma you process and learn from and grow and go forward from. Grow forward. I like that. What's it going to take for you to do that? Thinking back to spring 2023 when I wrote those things, I set out with zing and pep, office fans, zing and pep, even more determined to live my brand. Only to again in May 2023 hit another devastating personal roadblock. And that's when I decided to try with even more zing and pep, office fans, to live and love intentionally. And you know what? Someone finally saw that in me. And she has taught me how to focus more on growth than the trauma. But you know why that is? because like me, she too had once reached the bottom. In July 2023, when I started recording again, I thought I'd talk a little about what it means to live and love intentionally, but really, that's what it's all about. Not creating bad karma by living and loving intentionally and giving your choices a purpose bigger than yourself. No bad karma. Live and love intentionally. But it's sad that it had to come from the bottom. And it's sad that it takes someone else who's been there to appreciate that in others. It's sad that, I've said before, the people that volunteer at food pantries are the people that went hungry. Being at the bottom gives us an incredible desire to be the best we can for ourselves and for each other. Because you truly want to feed someone else and be fed yourself. You want to feed each other and help each other grow forward. We all, as people, should build each other up. My partner once said to me, "I see you for who you are." And that gave me chills because that's what my ex-wife said to me when my head was in a haze. My partner and I were just having a conversation kind of around this topic this morning, just thinking about what my head used to feel like back when I drank frustrations away. That alone makes my head hurt, just thinking about how my head felt then. Don't wait until you're at the bottom to be intentional with your choices. My partner Adele shared something with me shortly after I met her from a book she was reading at the time. What I'm about to read is from page 69 of Light is the New Black, a guide to answering your soul's callings and working your light. It's a book by Rebecca Campbell. Her website is rebeccacampbell.me. If you're interested in her book, podcast, or learning more about her, go to her website. And, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. But on page 69, this is the piece. It's called, "I Pray That You Hit Rock Bottom." I pray that you hit rock bottom. The most painful time in your life. I pray that you feel alone, isolated, deserted. And you discover that what you thought was rock bottom is actually a ledge. So you can come crashing down even further. And as you land, you are cracked open into 1,000,000. No, 1,000,000,000 pieces. And have no idea how to put them back together. I pray that while you are down there in the depths, the only person you have to keep your company is you. I pray that you choose to gather up the pieces, and with no idea how and in what order, then begin putting them back together, one by one. Just right. I pray for foundations mightier than the Acropolis, and an inner light that shines so bright it dazzles the corneas of anyone who cannot handle your bright. I pray for skin as comfortable as a 10-year-old tracksuit on a Saturday night, and an inner light so bright that you can always find your way home. I pray for the triumph of your soul and the return of you. Don't wait for the bottom to give your choices a purpose bigger than yourself. See you soon.